Hey everyone, it's Sonia here. Wanted to give you another little update. Gunner's fine, Aaron's fine, totally recovered. I seem to be over the COVID, but I have a horrible pain. Okay, that's my like really bad drawing of a pelvis. Okay, and see this right here? These bones right here? They're killing me. What the hell? Please help me. I'm gonna leave it at that. But that's why like I didn't make a video yesterday. I was in way too much pain. And today, also, it kind of ruined my day. Anyway, I do want to give you an update, and I want to tell you my embarrassing problem. I'm hoping somebody knows what to do about it. So here in Quebec, it's like a kind of panic mode has taken over the population. You guys know there was a big spike. Everything got shut down. I haven't been out, so I don't really know exactly like what's going on out there, but apparently like we're in lockdown. I know that on Sundays everything is closed except like gas station and the dépanneur and like the pharmacy. So we keep getting told that the hospitals are becoming overwhelmed. Although if you look at the number of like emergency admissions, for example, they're not higher than they are at this time for most years. It's not that the emergencies are overwhelmed. And if you look at the number of COVID admissions, for soins intensifs, what do you call it? Intensive care and regular, they're not higher than they were in the second wave. Well, slightly higher, but not that much. And considering that a lot of the people who are COVID hospitalizations, our own newspapers are telling us 30 to 50% of them are not there for COVID. They're there for completely different things. For children, it's even higher. That's our papers telling us that. That's not me making it up. They come in for appendicitis or whatever it is. They test positive, COVID hospitalization. On top of that, there's also a lot of people that were already in the hospital, like seniors, that then they test positive and they send them to the COVID ward and their COVID hospitalizations. So how can the hospitals be overwhelmed? Well, it's because at this time we actually have 20,000 hospital workers that are out on COVID leave, as in they're sick or they're quarantining. 20,000. Imagine our hospitals were overwhelmed before when we had a deficit of 4,000 nurses. Imagine now 20,000 staff missing. 50% of surgeries have to be postponed. It's because they're all gone with the COVID. It's kind of ironic because they almost fired the unvaccinated staff, even if they were recovered. And now actually the staff that's out on sick leave, 98% of them are vaccinated. So it is what it is. So despite the fact that, the problem with the hospitals is that there's nobody there because they're all being put in quarantine. The public is crying for stronger restrictions on the unvaccinated, or at least that's what our media is telling us. Our media is telling us that the way that our government here makes decisions is that they base it on polls, which is kind of weird. They should be basing it on the advice of scientists, not, Jeanette in Abitibi, who gives her opinion in a poll. I think what they do is they run certain kinds of articles first to influence people's opinion. Then they run the poll. And if the poll says, we cry for the blood of the unvaccinated, then I guess Legault and Arruda and Dubé, they got to give them the blood of the unvaccinated. That's what they're doing. People are still blaming this on the unvaccinated, even though, I'll tell you something really weird. If you look at the dashboard that they put up every day that they do the stats, in September, an unvaccinated person was 8-point-something times more likely than a vaccinated person to get infected. And they were 33 times more likely to end up in the hospital. The weird thing was, by December, this rate just started to drop. Okay, by the 1st of December, an unvaccinated person's risk of infection had dropped to 3.5 times that of a vaccinated person. And the risk of being hospitalized had dropped to 15.8 times that of a vaccinated person. By the end of December, An unvaccinated person's risk of infection was 0.8 times that of a vaccinated person. That's weird. Their risk had actually dropped to lower than a vaccinated person. And their risk of hospitalization had dropped to 10.7 times that of a vaccinated person. So it's still a lot higher, but it seemed to be dropping extremely quickly. And for a person who'd had one dose, their risk was of catching it was at half of someone who'd had two doses. Hey, YouTube, this is what it just says. I'm not commenting. I'm just giving people the facts. This is what it says. So that was like the 29th of December. Just from the 29th of December to the 4th of January, an unvaccinated person's risk of infection has now dropped to 0.7 times the risk of a vaccinated person. I mean, this is kind of mind-blowing, right? In September, an unvaccinated person still had 8.4 times the risk of catching the COVID. In January, they now have 0.7 times the risk. The risk is lower, and it's dropping really fast. And the hospitalization, although still much higher, the multiplication of the risk is dropping too already. What could explain this? I mean, I'm just going to take a guess, but I would guess that as the unvaccinated people have been catching the disease, to a certain extent, they're now developing immunity, and their risk of catching it again is going down. It's possible. And in spite of this, when our government imposes restrictions on the unvaccinated, they make no distinction between the vulnerable unvaccinated and the recovered unvaccinated, unlike most other countries where they have some kind of vaccine passport, where they do recognize natural immunity. In Quebec, they don't. They sanction people and restrict people who have natural immunity. And this is all in spite of the fact that in their own decree, they recognize that a person is adequately protected if they have recovered from COVID in the last 6 months. So the public of Quebec is apparently screaming for blood, but the fact is that the huge shortage of workers is a big part of the problem. Oh, on a side note, this problem is all the way across Canada. They're out of staff for police, firefighters, first responders, you name it. It's all the way across Canada. There's some places where like 10% of the police force is off work, 5% of the fire department. In one town, it was like 50% of the fire department. So this is a widespread problem. It's not just in Quebec. But somehow the people of Quebec would feel better if the unvaccinated were more heavily punished. That would fix the problem, I guess. In spite of this stuff, whatever. So what our government did to make Jeanette happy was they decided to lock the unvaccinated out of the liquor store and the pot shop. I'll tell you, there are a lot of very happy drug dealers here in Quebec, I'm sure, because they just got their business back. I think the government knows that that was just kind of a symbolic gesture. So they are now adding a ban on the unvaccinated for personal care. So pretty soon you're going to be able to tell who's had their shots or not based on whether they look like complete shit or not, because they won't be able to get a haircut. But wait, actually, there's a lot of people selling personal care services on Marketplace. I'm sure people are going to get their haircut anyway. That's how it goes.
And Health Minister Christian Dubé says the unvaccinated will soon lose access to even more businesses.
All non-essential service, shopping malls, name it.
Dubé also announced a third dose will soon be required in order to have a valid vaccine passport. So can people expect to need a fourth or a fifth dose down the line?
Well, let's start with the third dose first. And we're going to be ready to use this passport over the next year or so.
And I don't think it's going to do anything for the last holdouts because they're either farfada or they're religious people who think it's the mark of the beast. And I'm pretty sure they're going to just skip the haircut and the pot. But they're saying that down the road, what's going to happen is you're going to need 3 doses for your vaccine passport to be valid. So a lot of people out there who've been using the pass, they won't be able to use it anymore unless they get the third dose. And I'm not sure that everyone is so on board with that. It was kind of a hard sell to get the younger people to get 2 doses. And there's a certain proportion that got one and they never went for the second. I'm not sure why. So I don't know how much people are going to be really willing to just run out and get a third dose, especially after a lot of people already caught Omicron. And our government is telling people if you just had Omicron, maybe you should hold off on your third dose. So I'm not sure how that's going to work, but clearly this is the direction it's heading. It's just like in Israel or wherever else. You get your two, you get your privileges, and then to maintain your privileges, you have to maintain with the compliance. Otherwise, you end up with no pot, no haircut, and life is gonna suck. After all your effort, it's still gonna suck. So one last thing that I wanted to mention, which I did post it on Facebook, if you're on my Facebook page, was that there's an interesting study, which I'm not going to try to explain the whole thing because it's just, it's whatever. But I will tell you, go and see Dr. John Campbell. He'll explain it. He'll do a better job. But the gist of it is that Omicron was so different from all the other strains that some scientists did a study and they think that it actually may have come from mice, not humans. Oh, Jeanette in Abitibi is going to be very disappointed to hear this. Maybe the news will never reach her, though. There's a good chance. She'd be very disappointed to hear that actually Omicron didn't come from an unvaccinated person. It came from a mouse. An unvaccinated mouse. That mouse does not deserve any pot or any haircuts. Well, they did the study and they think that it looks like the virus went to mice or rodents, went to mice, and then came back to humans. I guess lucky for us because it came back a lot less deadly. But it seemed like a lot of this anger towards the unvaccinated, accusing them of creating all these mutations, that's all based kind of on hearsay because no one ever really knew for sure where mutations came from. And they actually never really said it was just from unvaccinated people. And let's keep in mind, like a big portion of the world is not vaccinated. So Jeanette, you don't have to blame, Réjeanne who lives down the street because she didn't take her shots. Because meanwhile, there's like 1 billion or people in another country that didn't take it. And the variant came from over there anyway. But yeah, it was always just kind of a theory. And actually the theory wasn't so much that they weren't vaccinated, it was that they were immune compromised. There was this theory that it was somebody who had HIV and harbored the virus for a long time, but like they never really knew. It was just it was a hypothesis. But this study, which is peer reviewed, makes a good case for this mutation having come from mice. So go check out John Campbell's video, Dr. Campbell, sorry. And I guess I'll leave you the link for the study. And that's it. Like I don't want to talk about COVID all the time. I wanted to give you a little update about these things, but I do want to say though that it really sucked being stuck in the house all that time and having to get people to do things for me, and it made me think like, wow, if you're disabled and you have to rely on people to go and do things for you, like that's got to be really hard because I only have like one friend, Jana, who could really do this. I mean, Justin would do things too, but he doesn't have a car. So I didn't ask him, but Jana tried a couple times, and it's really hard to communicate to someone else exactly what you want from the store. And then it turns out they don't have it there. And then, of course, you can't ask them, well, can you go to the other one? Because it's like, now you're asking too much. And it's just an awful feeling to like be dependent on people. I've never been in that situation before. My friend Ken also picked something up for me from the clinic. I finally got my saline so I can nebulize, but I mean it's rough like having to ask people for stuff. I feel bad for anybody who's like really, really dependent. I hope you have good people around you who'll really do what you need, because it's like you're so screwed when you can't do things for yourself. Oh my God. And it's weird because Aaron is like that all the time, and I do stuff for him, but I do it all the time, and he's not completely helpless either, right? Like he can do most things on his own. It's like he just needs a little extra help. But like when you literally can't go, actually no, sometimes he really can't go to the store. I guess it just sensitized me more to what it must be like for him. It's true, in the winter he can't. He relies on me. I guess I try to do a good job. I hope I do a good enough job. I don't want him to feel the way that I did during my quarantine, because that sucks. Oh yeah, I just want to say one last thing. If you guys like the purifier pouches, I still have them. They they eliminate odors by removing viruses, bacteria, fungus, and mold. You guys know what they do. They sanitize, they remove odors. I like them in the car. Also, like when I mail stuff or if I want to clean something, it's just incredible. Check out the link, you'll see more info there. And I also have the water purification tabs. One of these is good for 10 gallons. So check it out. You get a discount if you use the link below. So I just wanted to say hi to you guys. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and thanks for joining me in the chat. And thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.